Hey everyone, Mr. Devil here, Kenny Danico, three-time Stanley Cup champion of the New Jersey Devils, and you're listening to the Uncle Puckers New Jersey Devils podcast with Chris, Dan, Bobby, and Tony, the Uncle Puckers. Let's go Devils!
Let's go Devils! That's all we're going to play.
Hey, Devils.
No games, no nothing, so we can't do the goal horn or can't do the sad trombone, so we're just going to start. Thanks for checking us out, Bobby, Chris, and Dan, the Uncle Puckers. So let's start with something pretty important here. Dan, how'd your doctor's visit go? Are you
they're going to have to make me robot legs. That's
nice.
That was the final outcome. Doctor said, you need robot legs. And I said, all right, doesn't sound so bad. Does insurance cover it?
Then, man.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, with my new robot legs, I could take over the world, I think.
If I got robot legs, do you think they can make them, like, I don't have to remain my height, right? I can become taller then.
I'm going for that costs extra. So there's the Go Gadget option.
Okay. So
yeah.
Telescopic knees and shit.
Yeah. It's a little pricey, but I think it's worth it because, I can, maybe get into basketball career. But one thing I wanted was swivel legs, swivel knees, rather. The swivel knees will give me the perfect butterfly. So I can resume playing goaltending. So that was part of the discussion. And other than that, everything looks great. Yeah.
So everything went good?
Good.
Yeah. But looked great.
You need a hip replacement?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Robot legs. Yeah, they're going to be lopping that fucker off before too long because it's all jacked up. I got to see the images, and it's supposed to have some space between your joints, but I don't have any. I've got all bone on bone.
That's unfortunate.
So. Yeah, it's it's what happens as you get elderly like myself now at this point.
Man, that sucks.
Not the best thing, but I kind of saw it coming. So, it's all right.
I got a proud Papa moment I forgot to share on the last show. I was still, quarantining in the basement with COVID for my kid's first official hockey game of the season. But Jamie recorded every shift, and I got to watch it on the phone. And I was very proud. In his first shift, came down. He was playing right wing. The left winger came down, took a slap shot, surprisingly, because most of these kids can't actually do slap shots, from about the left circle, top of the circle. And then for some reason, he kind of Superman slid on the ice. I think the shot just knocked him off his feet, and he started sliding in. Shot goes under the goaltender's pad. Center comes down, just kind of peels off, just maybe assumes the play is dead. My kid's a third kid coming in on the right wing, sees a little daylight just underneath his pad, no whistle. Pops it through.
Nice.
The kid who was sliding down was right on the edge of the post. Easy tap in.
Nice.
First assist this season. It was gorgeous. He didn't give up on the play.
Got the greasy goal.
And I'm watching it on a little phone, and I kept writing my wife. I'm like, no, look at this. I'm like, watch this again. That puck, there's a little bit of daylight. He shovels that through. I was so excited because he's not the strongest kid yet, right? And he's not as gifted as
He's your kid. He probably won't be either, Bobby.
But he's got that killer instinct. Unlike you, Bobby. He goes in and he followed up the play. No, Bobby always had a good nose for the net when we used to play a little street hockey together, definitely. And so I'm not surprised. That's congratulations to
awesome,
him.
Man.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, nobody's teaching him that kind of stuff. That's just all him.
So what do you think the chances are that Hughes is back in the lineup by January 22nd against the Golden Knights? Because I really want to see him play live. I've never seen Jack Hughes live. I was thinking about that. Like the last game I went to was so long ago that I've never seen him. And I'm going to be a little bummed if he's not going to be in the lineup when me and my son head
I'm
up
feeling
there.
good about this. I think he'll be back. I don't know. Did we get a final, say so on what upper body? Upper body, is that it?
Is all they're saying.
It's a wrist.
It might be a wrist. It might be I don't know. They're saying week to week, not month to month, so that's good. Week to week can be next week, could be 5 weeks. Who knows?
I watched that play again and just trying to watch it, and I couldn't even see where the wrist was involved. So it's kind of a mystery. The best I got is he had those weird little nipple clamps on, and that one tore off a nipple. And I'm thinking the reattachment surgery in a couple weeks just to heal up a little bit. He'll be back in time.
Dude, hockey players play without nipples. I mean, that's bullshit.
I mean,
Peter
it might be part of his contract.
Without a fucking spleen.
Yeah, I know, but this is the new crop of players. They might want to play with both nipples. I don't know.
See, that's the problem with the game.
They are different.
Yeah,
that's the problem with the game. So I was, listening to some XM yesterday on Monday, and since our game against Chicago happened on Friday night,
catching some Bennington. Is that what you listening to, Bennington?
No, I wasn't listening to Bennington. I haven't listened to him in a couple of weeks, actually.
Well, I want to check it out because I heard Chris Stanley's back. But yeah, so you were listening to something else on it.
Stanley go?
Oh, he's been gone for a little while. Something about a family ill or something like that. I don't know. That's why I wanted to catch it. I saw.
Have you ever seen Chris Stanley?
Not in person, but
but you've seen pictures of him.
Sure, yeah.
He is a health incident waiting to happen, dude. That boy is not healthy.
Chris does not live healthy. No.
No.
How about the lip pit? You ever see him in the lip pit?
No. What's the lip pit?
Okay, so he's got this pit outside of his apartment. It should have like a fence around it or something. It's like in the ground. He lives in the city.
Parks and Rec next to Chris Pratt's house. They used to have the pit there, and he fell down it twice and broke his leg.
It's kind of like that. It's much smaller, but he sits down there, drinks and smokes like all night, and he calls it the lit pit. He makes his pick videos from there, like right. What do you call him? Lockdown with Chris Stanley.
Yeah. His Lockdown.
Yeah. So that
betting show.
Chris is he's a piece of work. Love that show. Love Bennington.
Well, you remember what Eastside used to call getting high?
Boy, what was that? That was the smoke zone, right? Or
no. He used to say, "I'm going to go in the garage and do my hining." You'd get hining. When I
I don't remember this at all.
When I smoke, I'm highing. So he would always hining.
Okay, I thought you meant what he called his garage.
No,
I
that
believe
was
he called his
garage
garage
or something. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
He was just an idiot.
Eastside Dave, maniac,
funny as hell.
Yeah,
but no, I haven't listened to them. I was listening to XM, and it was all about the Connor Bedard hit. And
okay, so how big of a target does Brendan Smith have on his back?
Well, I mean, I would say 95, maybe more % of people that called in, the announcers, all them, basically said, like, look, this is a clean hit. This is a part of hockey. If you don't want this in hockey, this was I was listening to, I think it was who the hell was it? It wasn't Steve Kouleas. It was another guy that's on the channel. I don't remember who it was, but he was having people call in like, do you want to see that kind of stuff eliminated from the game or not? Because in essence, if you take that away from the game, you're changing hockey. You're changing what we know of hockey. And there's already a lot less hitting. And even though I have kind of noticed like the hitting and physicality has picked up, like I think
recently, like maybe since like Florida made their run and,
I would say
really did a great job.
Vegas and Florida being in the finals, definitely, we're building this fast, smaller, not so physical team. And it feels like the whole NHL is changing again, and they're all going to, like, Vegas doesn't have any defensemen like shorter than 6'4". They're all monsters.
Right.
Now that's kind of changing again, and I'm a little worried that we're a little behind the 8 ball, or do we just go and win the cup and then everyone starts to do what we did?
Well, there is a follow the leader kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. But
I hope it hasn't changed too much because we just got there.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking.
And, it's easy to say when, the hit is by Brendan Smith, you're like, no, this is part of the game. You feel very comfortable saying that because it is a clean hit.
Yeah.
But I think if that same hit was delivered on Hughes, there'd be a lot of Devil fans who are so upset that they might change their mind on that position. I'm just saying, when it's your guy, it's a little harder to just say this is the game you wanted.
I think the initial reaction you would give the Devils fans a day. I think most smart hockey fans have to see this for what it is. Right. And I don't understand why it's got so much legs. I mean, clean hit, end of story. Not only was it clean, I can't remember the last time I saw a guy in slow motion at the last second take even more. He lowered his shoulder even more and tucked in his elbow even more. He really knew. He's like, I don't want to hurt. I don't want to run through him. Right. You saw at the very last second, he was very conscious of what he was doing. And
making sure it was clean. Hit. Yeah, keeping the elbow in.
If it wasn't Connor Bedard,
that's it.
Talking about it.
That's
absolutely.
The key. And they were aware of that. They absolutely had said that if this isn't Connor Bedard, we're not having this conversation. Also, many people had called in. First of all, I like the dude that was doing the call-ins because he's like, before we go any further, I don't want to hear from one New Jersey Devil fan or one Chicago Blackhawk fan. Nice. I know where you guys stand on this. I don't want to hear from you, so don't call. So it was a bunch of other people calling in.
Allegedly.
And most of them, allegedly, yeah. I was Jim, the Columbus Blue Jacket fan, when I called. They most of the people said the exact thing that you said. Like, if Smith wanted to hurt him, he really could have hurt him. I mean, he did, but he was actually laying up. Something that not a lot of people talked about, but like this is a sport. This is a professional league where we have 18-year-old kids playing with 30-year-old men.
Yeah.
There's a big-ass difference between how you are or were physically when you're 18 to how you are when you're 30. It is night and day. And, I've seen Connor Bedard with all his skill, how great of a player he is. If he is not more careful, like you watch Jack. Jack knows, he's small and he avoids those hits, like the big ones. He avoids them.
I feel like he's gotten better at it. Yes. He's got better at avoiding them, and he's also gotten better at putting a little size on, which comes with age. I think I'm a little less fearful for his safety this year than his debut. But I'm never going to feel like he can take a hit like some of the bigger guys, ever. So it's always out there.
And to your point, Bobby, or Dan, whoever said about Devil fans, if it was a hit on Hughes, look, when Trouba knocked out Meyer in that playoff game, every one of us said, if you think that was a dirty hit, you don't know what hockey is. Right. That was a clean hit. It sucks that it was on our guy, but It was clean, and that's part of the game.
Trouba's not always so clean, but he was in that instance.
You can't complain about that hit. And my problem with that hit was it happened at a time in the game that the game was over. There was, the Rangers were out of this. They were not winning that game. Yep. And Trouba went with intent to hurt. That's the thing that bothered me.
The last time we played them, the way he was, he's trying to, he did the exact opposite of Smith, where he's trying to pop through and thrust out that arm and shoulder. You could see his intent was to injure, and it certainly was when he was swinging that stick at somebody's head. Yeah. So he's not a clean player, but that actually in that game, that hit was, it is what it is. It was, but it still fell in the realm of clean, so I can't complain, I guess.
Right. But again, it was unnecessary because, and look at Brendan Smith's point of view, right? You're going to let this guy just go walk right into the middle of the ice and take a shot on you. Brendan Smith would have no ice time. You're not playing in the league. Absolutely. If you're doing that as a defenseman. Yep. He might have been a forward that night, but it doesn't matter.
Connor Bedard has already proven he is, in fact, what he's going to be. He's shown it. And you're just going to let him walk in and score? You can't do that. And look at the Devils are fighting it this year. And he's got to play hard. It doesn't matter, Connor Bedard, if the Devils are in first place, if they haven't lost a game yet, you see an opportunity like that to take somebody out of the play, prevent them from scoring, you have to do it.
Absolutely.
That's the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, they are fighting it a little bit, and I'm really hoping that this week, these next 3 games are big. We know we're not going to have Jack in the lineup. Really hoping that maybe Timo can get back. I don't know if he's going to be traveling with the team or anything like that.
Skating on his own.
So next, if we hear that he made the trip down to Florida with them, then I think that we should maybe expect him for one of those 2 games. But the other thing is though, don't rush this guy back too early. I feel like maybe we did that last time. Right. I want to see this team get as healthy as they can. They kind of have a 2-week window here, before
not a lot
things
of games
get critical. Just keep your head above water, stay in the pack. Yeah. Oh, and then, get Timo back, we get Jack back, and maybe there's a move on the horizon.
You really have to look at every possible scheduling advantage, like a 2-game week instead of, in this case, a 4-game week. You know what I mean? That's every little bit's going to help if 1 or 2 guys slowly come back. I'm looking at the updated depth chart right now. I'm just going to read down the line. Just listen.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Toffoli, Mercer, Bratt, Haula, Hischier, Bastian, Lazar, McLeod, Holtz, Smith, Tierney, Bowers. That's our forward group. And then it's Hughes, Marino, Foote, Nemec, Ball, and Miller.
So we're going to give Cal Foote a chance, huh?
Yeah, he got called up. This is just how they're, right now this person has certain scratches, but it looks like Foote's going to get a chance.
The way our defense has been... sure is, but this is why you have depth. Every team goes through injuries, and some a lot more than others, and I feel like we have completely had our full for the next year or 2. But this is where depth comes in, because you don't have to go in the next 2 weeks if that's how long it's going to take for Jack. You don't have to get into the top 3. You just got to stay within striking distance. There's a lot of things about this team in the last 2 weeks or so that I really like about how they're playing.
Yeah.
And so you don't have Jack. They played their ass off in Vancouver. Didn't start the game on time, but when they decided to show up, they looked good, and they probably could have won that game. Again, we go back to that call. You go 5-on-3 in the last 2 minutes of that game. It's probably going to overtime and we're getting a point. And, but didn't happen that way. I do think this team can beat Tampa. I do think this team can beat Boston. Don't think we can beat Florida. I do think Florida we would have to play a near perfect game from everybody on the ice to beat Florida in their building. And I don't know if that's going to happen, but go and get 2 out of 3.
Yeah,
that's it. Get at least 3 out of the possible.
It's achievable. It's very achievable. Yeah,
it's achievable. We've also seen the way the hockey gods like to write these stories too. When you got no business beating a team and you beat that team, so you still got to go into it hoping that we're going to get the best effort and maybe squeak out a win. But I think logically we said the same thing last week. I agree with you there. I think that Florida's the scariest game to me.
Yeah.
And this lineup, I mean, you're talking about a bunch of guys that are not used to playing with each other. Forget all the line juggling. I mean, we're literally going to have a couple people in here and maybe haven't played a game.
This is true. There's an article. I want to get your guys' opinion on. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of give you gist of what he's writing. So it's all about the jersey. It's Chris Fieldhouse wrote the article, and he writes the underutilization and misusage of Nico Hischier. So he writes, and this is just the beginning here, while Jack Hughes has been incredibly productive in all situations and Michael McLeod has taken a huge step this season, it should not come at the expense of Nico Hischier's ice time. And he says he's not on the Fire Lindy brigade, but one line that continually sticks out in his head is, that's not enough ice time. Ruff had said that about Jesper Bratt after a game in which he received a third liner's share of minutes, though it had seemed over time that Ruff grew to trust Bratt with more responsibility. Unfortunately, Lindy Ruff has not been keeping Nico Hischier's minutes up. Presently, Nico plays 18:03 per night, the lowest average ice time since his rookie season, or since he averaged 18:06 and 18:04 per night in the 2 years after.
Okay, wait. He averaged 18:06 and 18:04, but he's at 18:03 right now?
He averaged 18:06 and 18:04 with his 16, 19, 18:06, 18:04. Those are his average ice times for his first 3 years in the league. Okay. Now he's at 18:06. So now in that time, I don't know if he has here what his average ice time was last year or the year before. I don't know.
I mean, how much more could it have been? We're not talking about it. I just want to see what we're talking about here, the difference. It sounds like it's only a little bit less than it used to be.
Now, he writes here that, he has a couple of different, let me see if I can find them.
Go ahead.
He writes, issue number 1, turning Nico into a checking line center when McLeod is already on the team. So he goes on to make the point, with Andre Palat on Nico Hischier's line, a significant number of chances that could be goals turn into not goals. Don't get me wrong, Palat had a solid season, and his work off the puck and on the boards have been very strong. What has not been very strong has been his shooting ability, with just 5 goals in 35 games, largely on lines with the likes of Hischier, Bratt, and other top 6 forwards. Palat's lack of scoring makes it difficult for Hischier to get rolling offensively. He goes on basically to make the point that Palat, like Bobby believes 100%, needs to be on that third line.
Right.
And you got to give the lion's share of ice time to the Jack line and the Nico line.
So what does he want to do? He wants to have Nico play with what? Like, not Holtz, but who else who's currently on third line?
Well, let me see. He writes here, when Andre Palat on Nico Hischier's line, a significant number of chances. Okay, I read that already. Do you know who else seems to have good chemistry with Palat? Michael McLeod, who combined with Palat for one of the highlight goals in the postseason against the Rangers. Maybe Lindy Ruff thinks that Hischier can carry lesser line mates on a regular basis, but with how few goals his line mates are scoring, it's time for Ruff to rethink it and rethink the way he lines everybody up. When Meyer returns, I would like for him to be put on Hischier's line, while Palat should go to McLeod's upon return. McLeod should not be cutting into Hischier's ice time. If McLeod needs more minutes, play the Smith, Lazar, Bastian line even less. So he would like to see, I guess it would be Mercer, Meyer, Hischier, and then Bratt, Toffoli, and Hughes as the top 6.
Okay.
And what do you guys think of that? Do you notice that Nico Hischier has been a little bit, kind of has seemed like it's been the Michael McLeod show lately. And, he does seem to be on the ice all the time, but I'm not one to calculate, ice minutes per game and shit like that. So
it just doesn't seem that drastically different in actual time, but I get the point. Okay. Who he's playing with matters, right?
Yes.
I've got to think that, certain realignments just by chance will help Nico produce a little bit more by himself. But, by the same token, like, do you do anything to slow McLeod down right now? I mean, he's been, for his part, carrying the team to an extent, So,
and I think that Nico Hischier I would like to see, of course, Nico Hischier get a little bit more ice time if he is really down to where he was his first 3 seasons. He deserves it. He's the captain. But, Michael McLeod has been the engine really driving this car these last couple of weeks. And I don't know if you really want to take him off the ice. It's for him and moving Palat to that line. How much does that screw up chemistry? Do you keep Mercer down there? I don't know.
It might be worth trying, especially with Hughes out. I get it. Now you have some room to experiment because you're going to be forced to. And so, like, if this thing was taken in a vacuum, this article, I kind of would have, really no idea where he's coming from as far as a solution. But I think in this instance, why not try those combos he's proposing? It's probably going to come up.
Yeah, Bob.
I'd say it's not a bad idea. I mean, I'm looking at where Hischier's at right now. And he's only played 27 games, but he's got 11 goals. So you could basically factor that out to like a 30-goal pace still, 33.
Right.
That's not bad.
No.
But his point about his wingers, maybe that's why this stat is looking particular. His assists are only 10. So if you factor that in for a full year, 30 assists, 30 goals, 60 points, that does seem a little off for Hischier. And I'm certainly all about getting him on the ice more. So he's got some legs.
He has issue number 2. He writes, underperformance from poor finishing among the Toffoli, Hughes, and Bratt line. He writes, in 142 minutes together at 5-on-5 this season, the Toffoli, Hughes, Bratt line has 6 goals. They have given up 6 goals. They are dominating possession, shots, and chances, yes, but their on-ice shooting percentage as a line is 6.6%. Yet, Lindy Ruff continually trots them out there. Could there be an explanation for their lack of scoring, though, despite their chances? From watching them, I think Toffoli is too much of a peripheral player on that line. He's not a threat to carry in the puck, and teams more or less zero in on Bratt and Hughes. But Toffoli has not been finishing his chances. Could this change? Maybe. But they have scored at a much higher rate. Toffoli, Hughes, Bratt gets minus 2.31 goals per 60 compared to when Hischier is lined up with Bratt. So he's saying Bratt should be up with Hischier.
Okay, so he wants Brad Hischier and Meyer is what he wants.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, I mean it's worth trying that combo, but I don't know. I have a hard time putting everything on Toffoli. I feel like he's come through a lot bigger than maybe Brad has, especially for what we've expected coming into the season.
It's hard to do that, and then also I feel like if there's one pairing that for whatever reason we've really seen doesn't work, it's Timo and Jack.
Yeah.
So putting him with Hischier does make more sense.
Which is a shame because I think on paper it's a good idea to have Timo and Jack, but it hasn't really worked out.
Where we originally thought he would go.
Yeah,
but in the beginning of the year, I mean, maybe I'm getting seasons confused because I'm old and my brain doesn't work the way it used to. But Toffoli, Meyer, and Hughes was a really good line for us in the beginning of the year.
But I don't think Timo was scoring at all.
I think Timo was the lesser guy on there, but Toffoli and Hughes definitely did have something. I did like that line. Yes. I've heard a lot of hate towards Toffoli lately, and I don't get it. I like the guy, and I think he's a heck of a hockey player. And yeah, is he a little bit slower? Yeah, he's on a team of guys with rockets up their ass.
Where do you
most
think
guys
that
are slower.
Stems from he was so hot so fast that now everyone's like, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah,
if he were still scoring at that pace, ain't nobody hating him. That's for sure.
And when Jack comes back and this team gets healthy, he'll probably get right back on it. I mean, he's a finisher. And, when you have a guy with a shot like that'll get into the dirty parts of the crease to score goals, and you got a magician with the puck like Jack just finding him wherever he is on the ice, they're going to finish. Toffoli's a finisher. They were a little bit off, I think, the last 2 weeks, that Bratt, Toffoli, and Hughes line. But, I mean, I still think that they're the best line we have out there. You know, even if they're not scoring goals, they are still putting, you're still giving better chances, better line advantages to your other lines every time they're out there, you know?
And taking pressure off the defense.
Yeah. Issue number 3, touches on the power play. He writes, with a 28.57% power play success rate, it's difficult to find much fault with the power play, but he's gonna. Let's listen. However, I think an issue the Devils struggle with is their over-reliance on puck movement at the top of the zone between Luke, Jack, and Bratt. As a result, Jack and Bratt lead the team with 21 and 20 power play points, respectively, as they have 16 and 14 assists each. Luke has 11 points in 119 minutes of power play time. Dougie had 8, but he's not playing. Okay. As the Devils have telegraphed to opponents that they will never work the puck down low on the power play, those 3 dominating touches, and teams are starting to adjust. The Blackhawks kept a penalty killer right on Luke Hughes at the point, and the refusal to send the puck down low to Hischier continually leads to turnovers and clearances. This team works best when it works down low. And he goes on about their different statistics. Nico, is 4.87 power play points per 60, ranks 8th on the team, and all that other stuff. But I do actually agree a little bit with what he brings up about the power play.
You're right. Is it looking like a threat down low kind of power play, or just everything is set up from the up top?
Everything
I feel
is
like that
set
made
up.
a little sense.
And I also feel like our team, for whatever reason, and it's not just the defensemen, even though they do it more, but it is noticeable with the forwards. Most of our guys just aren't making quick decisions with the puck.
No, that's true.
And that seems to be a killer, especially in our own end.
When that puck gets coughed up in an awkward place and the player gets it unexpectedly, how many times do you see that does not pull the trigger true? Right. And I feel like they're making bad decisions. It'll be like the one extra pass or not realizing the time they have. Like, I get it. The down low presence of the power play. He's got a point with that. I feel like he's writing this whole thing as like it's a conspiracy against Nico, and he might be going a little far with that. But I think he makes a couple of valid points.
It's interesting to take on a power play that's still top in the league, right?
Right.
But what he does do a good job of is realizing that sometimes you got to change a little bit. So forget about when we were at 45% and that kind of silliness, right? But if you just look at where we've been and where we're going, there is a gradual decline.
Sure.
And if you were a business, that would be a way to get out of business, right? So you do need to look at it and say, what can we change and move this up? So throwing a new wrinkle like that in, even if it wasn't all the time, because you can't mess with how good they are at the way they also do it on the top. But if you can throw that in there, mix it up, throw some teams off their game, it would definitely be a benefit.
A lot of times I wanted to see somebody more in front of the net.
Yes.
Just stand, because that's a great way to integrate the down low game when you have such great point people. Okay, so you got a power play with awesome point passing. Of course, they're going to favor that kind of move. It gives them the best chances. I mean, there's a reason that all their scoring comes from those kind of plays. But if you want to integrate it more, take those down low players, and one of them at all times has to be in front of the goalie. We don't do that a lot. We don't have that kind of really annoying type of power play that makes the other teams frantic to get that guy out of there.
No, and without Jack in the lineup, you have to change up the power play because he's the the catalyst to all the offense on that power play. But let me ask you guys, though, when it comes to our defensemen, other than Hamilton, so he's gone, with Hamilton out, who on this team do you think has the best shot on D?
With Hamilton out, who's got the best, heaviest
shot? The hardest,
shot?
heaviest shot, yes.
Miller.
Boy, Miller had a couple of great ones. Those were bombs, 100%. Luke Hughes' shot is so sneaky. I wouldn't call it a bomb, but it's like it's lethal from anywhere, like a laser beam more like than a bomb.
Would you attempt putting Colin Miller on the power play?
I'd give it a look, at least somewhere.
I really would like to see that. We see how good they were with Hamilton with that slap shot from the point, and and we were getting guys in front of that, usually Nico, and that was a really good go-to on the power play. If nothing's open around, you just give it to Dougie, let him just hammer it, and if it gets through, it's going to cause damage. And other than Miller, I don't see anyone on the team that can do that. Maybe try and recreate that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I give Miller a shot at that for sure. That makes sense. Does Miller have the puck handling at the point?
That's
skills that Hamilton does
have.
And especially Luke Hughes, but because that's tough. That's the trick. Like, can you unleash that shot? There's a lot of guys who have a tremendous shot they almost never get to use because they don't have the puck handling. Against that, but it's definitely worth a shot.
I'm almost always up for a little tweak here and there just to change things up. Sometimes not that kind of
that to all the boys. I'm up for a little tweak here,
little wrinkle.
Because
the wrinkles out. Bring a different element.
Rub out those wrinkles.
What about those wrinkles? You guys get me off my game real quick.
Yeah, I think that you
off real quick. What?
You got off quick on your wrinkled balls?
No.
Your point was you got to change things up. So putting Colin Miller out there.
Oh, of course it was deeper.
It was deeper.
That's where it had to be.
Much more thoughtful than that.
Yeah, get you off real quickly.
I was
changing the name back to Uncle Fuckers.
I do want to say no. We'll get sued. So we got to keep the P in. Got to get the F out.
Yeah, that's right.
So, did you guys bet a whole bunch of money and like your mortgage payments on football this Sunday?
Yes, I did so good with that too. Thank you, DraftKings.
Well, I will say this: Wild Card Weekend's next weekend. So if you didn't lose all your money this week, the opportunity is available for you again on Sunday. So
awesome! I get paid on Friday.
And the best payout is find the biggest underdog out there and put all your money on them because if
Minnesota
they win,
Vikings.
Biggest payout. No, they're not. They're done. They're not in the playoffs.
Week late.
Let's just really hope that that's the only team of my two teams that aren't making playoffs this year.
Right.
So yeah, I and I'm nervous about it. I really am nervous. We're not going to make the playoffs, and it's like there's just the points just keep on. Nobody's slipping, and everybody just keeps gaining points, and it's yeah. But download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, all you Hockey Podcast Network listeners, and use THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL.
Are those dollars or dollars?
They're dollars.
Oh, that's Canadian money. So there's an exchange rate here.
Absolutely.
Dollars.
The crown is yours.
That's my best Canadian accent.
It's everywhere in Canada except Ontario.
Ontario's the lame asses.
Sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Why do they have such a bug up their ass?
Seriously. Quebec province.
They're
partying in the streets.
Ontario.
Yeah.
What kind of
British
gamble?
Columbia. British Columbia's, waking, baking, gambling. They're living a life out there. Even Manitoba, Saskatchewan.
I can't do my
Yukon territory. What else?
I don't have a Yukon territory accent.
Yukon Cornelius. That's the accent.
Yeah, I can't do him.
What
do my little French Canadian. Oh, that's good. That's good. What do you mean you got a gambling problem?
If so, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. You can call 888-789-7777 or just go and visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of the Boot Hill Casino and the resorts, they're down there in Louisiana, 21 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction, and avoid where I'm in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. That's a lot of hours. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023. All rights reserved. That's it for today.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty Biron.
Thank you, Marty Biron, for joining the show.
Wow. That was something else.
Classic.
I'm going to have to analyze that one. I love it.
So, 2 games this week. 2 goalies. How's this working? What do you guys think? Dawes getting both? You're going to split them?
I think you'd rock, paper, scissors this one. And just
have the
two goalies go at it. Who's getting which game? You definitely give, Dawes a shot at one of these. So, I mean, does it really matter which? I don't know.
I would like to see Dawes play Florida.
You want to give him the harder shot?
Yes, I want to see him against.
I think that makes a certain amount of sense. Like, you want to test him. Here's a test.
Yep.
Yeah. It is interesting because it's such a long break. What do you do if you're a coach? It's not about get this guy in because this one's rested, right? So is it how they look in practice, who you just get a better feel for? I like your logic that right now Dawes appears to be the better goalie, so I want him in the harder game. At least that's how our old school logic used to work. But they just need wins desperately too. So you also want to start the first game saying, give me my best guy and win that game. And then you got a day off. You can bring him right back. You don't have to flip-flop all the time.
No, that's why I said, do you think maybe you go with Dawes for both of these games?
I think he's earned that right.
I can't remember the last week we didn't have a back-to-back.
I know.
I mean, it would be interesting, and it doesn't matter to me, but I like the logic. I like the idea of keeping it out there that, like, hey, maybe let him emerge as some kind of, like, I feel like it's asking a little much of him, to be honest with you. That, like, okay, don't just go do your job, be like a savior, But honestly, I think if you ask him, I think that's everybody's dream. Like, you're giving me a shot at the team. That's great. So, like, definitely give him that first game, see what it's like. And, boy, I'd be so ready for somebody I can count on in back-to-back or near back-to-back situations that I want to test that, because that's the deal that I think everybody's concerned with Vanecek, is that if you have to ride him, 4 out of 7 nights, you might have a problem. He needs more rest than that, and that's a playoff problem if it really is true.
Yeah, that's a playoff schedule.
I would love to see if Dawes has what it takes. I just feel like in the end, if you put him through his paces, unless the team's playing a lot better, nobody's going to get the success that Devils fans are really looking for from their goaltender. I just kind of feel like we've kind of been yet rightfully wanting a little bit more from them, noticing that if we just got some really stellar goaltending, we could have been in a totally different position. But I feel like you can't really count on that night in, night out in too many places in the league. And I don't know if Dawes is the guy, but let's test him out. Let's see.
I think I wasn't sure, like, at first when you made the comment a couple of weeks ago, like, look, I don't care who's in goal. With the defense playing like this is the result you're going to get. It doesn't matter if it's Dawes. And I thought, a better goalie is going to help us out. And then that Vancouver game happened. And Look, as great as Dawes was, I saw the defensive problems. And I'm like, this guy cannot catch a break playing on this fucking team. Like, they let him down goal after goal.
Right. And his accomplishment was getting him close enough to almost tie.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, it is. And I was on this is a goaltending problem side, more so than this is a defensive system side. So the problem. No, I think this is a defensive system problem, and a lot more than the goalies. Even though I don't think Vanecek has been good, but I think with a very competent defense, Dawes would be everything that we expect and want from a goalie. I really believe that. But they have got to get better in front of him. I've become a believer in Dawes in 3 games. I have.
Well, I love what I've seen of him. I know that's going to take some more time. And the thing is like, it really is a two-way street. He can help this team get better for a time, but they have to respond with better defense. The better defense can shield him for a time, but he's going to have to come up with some goaltending that nobody expects at times, So it's really a two-way street. And so, maybe these things click and maybe they don't. And when they don't click, it's kind of like, well, who's at fault? I feel like so far this season, the answer's been both. It's been our goaltenders, it's been Schmidt and Vanecek, and it's been the defense in pretty much equal measure. And I'll just expand it to the defensive structure of the team, not just the defenseman. But, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, this is not repeating the same mistakes. There's reasons we have to look elsewhere and see what's going on. And try to get something a little bit better. I have read a lot of articles about people comparing our goaltenders' stats against others in the league, trying to make the argument that it's not really the defense's problem. If it is, it's still a goaltending problem. And I feel like they're half right. It is a defense's problem, and it does make your goaltenders worse. But if you got the better goaltending, it would have helped too. So they're right. But on the other hand, the truth is like you're just not going to get that until they click a little bit better, and it really is a two-way street.
Look, we know Connor Hellebuyck's an amazing goalie, right? Vezina caliber goalie. You take Connor Hellebuyck and you put him on the Devils right now, his numbers are going to get so inflated, and yeah, he might win you some games, but he is not doing the performances he's doing up with that great defense that he has playing in front of him in Winnipeg on that great team. So it's all part of it. Having a great goalie and a great defensive system, I'll eat New Jersey Devils, Marty Brodeur all those years, is amazing.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Marty Brodeur will be the first one to tell you couldn't have done it without the defensive system that team had.
That's why I think Winnipeg is so damn dangerous this year, but that's another podcast. But I'm saying, yeah, they've got to tighten up whatever system it is that they're playing to give Dawes and whoever they bring in, because they're not going to stay with Vanacek. I really don't believe that. Unless there's just not a deal to be made that makes any kind of sense and we're just forced into living with him. I don't think that Fitzgerald wants to. I think he wants to upgrade that position. But like you said, we have to see what Dawes can do these next 2 games. But defensively, now, we always talk about addition by subtraction.
Right.
Siegenthaler's gone.
Yep.
Do you think that this team might get a little better defensively without him in the lineup? Or is that crazy talk?
I don't know that he was glaringly bad. He's still somewhat steady for this team. It's just that it's just not clicking, but there's a chance that other guys could step in and do a better job.
Well, who do we have filling in for him right now?
Right now, it looks like it's Cal Foote.
Foote. So, here is a guy that we've be kind of interested in seeing. So he could seize this opportunity. Sure. I think there's Siegenthaler of last year, we'd be totally excited to get him in place of Siegenthaler this year. Siegenthaler last year, he was not perfect defenseman, but he had a lot more fire and looked like, ability to follow plays through, was not taking, penalties that hurt us. And this year he's just been off. He has not been himself. So it's possible that, Cal Foote comes in, gives you some new, fresh, life to that position where Siegenthaler just hasn't made the connection that he had last year. I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked at his stats this year versus last year. But my impression as a fan just watching him is he's not the same guy. He's making some mistakes. He's not as reliable. He's getting beat in more situations than I felt like he was last year.
I agree, but like you said, is it addition by subtraction? That I don't know yet because, like I said, maybe Cal Foote can come in here and show us something good for a little while. But is he overall going to be at least as steady or what? I don't know. What I do think this opens up is more of a debate about when do we still make moves.
Right.
There seems to be a split amongst Devils fans, maybe not a 50-50, but a decent split about continuing as is or, kind of not giving up on the season, but just not trying to push too hard for change. So I wonder where we think that should go.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it this way. If you can assume Jack's going to be back in a few weeks, like they say. Timu is back on the return too. Now the long-termers, Siegenthaler, might not come back. Palat, for all we know, might actually not come back. But even those things happening, they're gone. Let's say they don't come back. Even Hamilton, maybe if at all, for the playoffs. To me, that still leaves enough team to go for maybe a key defenseman, maybe a goalie upgrade, and to not give in. What do you think?
Okay. I will just preface my statement by saying if Andre Palat does not come back to the Devils this year, in this offseason, Tom Fitzgerald needs to seriously consider buying out his contract and moving on from him. That's number one.
Just
I honestly
shown
believe
too
that.
Much fragility is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not there. It's not going to work. You're taking up a roster spot with a super deep team that, you know what, if you're not going to do it, we can find somebody a lot younger and cheaper that can.
Lord knows we've had a horrible time with continuity for this team. So many guys going out, and Palat's been maybe the most absent.
Yeah, exactly. The most absent. And like I said it on the last show, I feel like him and Timo Meier have not gotten their place on this team yet, that they're just guys who
I keep waiting for
occasionally
Timo.
Play for us. And it's like, I want to see, and I think Timo will fit in. And I think if this team makes the playoffs, Timo Meier will be a big reason that they do. I honestly believe that. I'm not so sure about Andre Palat. If he's not going to come back this year, I don't know how happy I'd be if he's still on the team next year. And I just don't think you can trade him because his contract is fucking immovable. Nobody's taking it.
That's a good
Nobody's
point.
taking it.
But, in the playoffs, I like his game. I like what he can add in the playoffs, but he's got to be there. So
it's got to be there.
Point. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I like what he can bring too, but if he's not going to be playing, but again, do I think this team has the depth and the players on this team right now without all those dudes you just mentioned to say, you know what, we're still going to make a fucking run and we're still going to go and get our guys and see what we can do? It totally depends on these next 3 games, in my opinion. It really does.
I agree with you, but I also say it depends on what you're going to give up.
Okay. I mean, yes. And do I think you go a rental guy? Absolutely not. No matter who it is. Now, if this team is in a position like the Rangers or Boston or Colorado or Winnipeg, you go for a year rental just to fill a deficiency. You don't do that here. If it's guys that do have term, regardless of what happens this year, if you expect them to be parts of your team for the next 2 or 3 years, like Jacob Markstrom or somebody like that, then you do it regardless of what happens this year because you're still building your team for these runs that are coming. Now, I think this week will kind of show you where this team is and how serious they are about really making a push, because I kind of feel like we have not seen, as great as we've seen this team this year, I feel like up until that Chicago game, that was kind of the first time that we saw them be a team. Yeah. And a lot of really good players, but have they really been a cohesive team this year? But they were against Chicago, and they were at the back end of that Vancouver game. And when all these other injuries have happened, we have said, why doesn't this team galvanize themselves around that injury? But they seem to fall apart around it. Well, Now's your opportunity again. Jack is out. You got a new goalie in there. You got a new defenseman in there. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to show these, the fans and the organization that, unless Jack's in there, you're just going to give up and not play?
So you're saying it's gut check time. It's like leadership time.
Absolutely.
When you talk this way, I feel myself agreeing with you. But I also go, you're pointing at one player more than anybody else, and that's Nico Hischier. For all his writing about Nico Hischier, there comes to some point like, hey, regardless of where you're put, you're going to have to be a leader in this team, whether it's about you showing through your play and communicating with the coach to get the minutes that this guy says you need to perform even better, or it's just about the effect you have in the locker room, in my opinion. And, maybe that's because you're right. We've had a few chances, right? Where, oh no, there's a big injury. Let's come together as a team. It's been mixed results. I wouldn't say we've always fallen apart. Sometimes we responded a little bit, but more often than not, we've fallen apart. And I feel like that's kind of a referendum on your whole squad and their character, on the coaching staff, and on the captaincy. Like, where's Nico at with this? So I think it's going to tell us a lot about, Nico as a captain this year. And it could be very positive. I'm not indicting him.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's a lot at stake.
But, a big to simplify, I answered your question, I think way too much. To simplify, they have all the skill to make a run. With the guys on this lineup right now, they have all the skill to do it.
So you say do it.
Yeah, that's it. If they don't, well, then that is an indictment on them, and it's an indictment on Lindy Ruff's coaching staff, because
you're assuming that in Bob's scenario that we have Hughes back and who else? Meyer
back.
Yeah, with Hughes and Meyer in place, I'm agree with you, Chris. I feel like this is a team you should be able to run with. So as long as it's not like such a high price it hurts this team, you're right. Like, not just wasteful rentals. I think you pull the trigger and keep going, because you have quite a team here still. It's just, I know they haven't performed yet, but you're right. It comes down to what they show us in the short term even. And then also, can we get them at the right price? Why wouldn't you? I mean, this is a hell of a good team with the lineup you're proposing, even with those other guys out.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I look at a team that, despite all the problems, is sitting in a playoff spot. And some of those guys are coming back very short term. And if you fill in a couple of needs that we have, then there could also be some big returns that seem like huge trades at the end of the year, like if a Hamilton does come back.
Right.
And now you've played the whole second half without him.
Like Vegas did with Mark Stone last year.
I mean, I wouldn't
Could be like Magic coming back.
Yeah.
I wouldn't overpay like crazy for anything, but I'm still in the I'd overpay a little bit to get the right pieces. I just firmly believe the right piece. There's a couple of defensemen out there that we've talked about a few times. If we plug one or two, it'd be one or the other, probably, plugging them in, and then the goaltender is going to be a little harder to shore up. But even if they can't get a goaltender, even if that market is just too out of reach, then to me it's all the more reason to just shore up some other areas. We've got the prospects to do it. We've got the depth to do it. That is not going to be a problem for this team for years. Now, it is just not an issue.
Long-term solid defenseman with size that is going to contribute at least a little offense would be huge.
Right. Now, do you guys think that? Think of a coach, and I know we don't like Tortorella, but we always use him, especially when you see how his coaching, does change team. Look at Philadelphia; they're for real, and they have nobody on their team. I once said on this show that every team has a superstar. I should have said every team except the Flyers do, because they don't. But they're winning because of the style he plays. Do you think that having a more vocal kind of rah-rah coach, this is like the perfect time to kind of seize that and play that underdog and look what's happened to us? And we've been ravaged with injuries and, kind of get into that aspect of more cheerleader stuff along with everything else. I feel like Lindy Ruff is not that guy at all.
He's way more reserved.
Yes, and
Tortorella, he's the gambler's coach.
I want to see a guy lose his shit once in a while on the bench. I want to see some emotion from Lindy Ruff, and I don't see any.
You're not going to get those blow-ups. Once in a while you see him, jawing at the ref, but Tortorella, he's kind of the guy that he can give you, fairly impressive results short term.
Oh yeah,
and
it doesn't last.
It's going to fizzle. So 100%. You want to have some kind of plan B there because his tenure is always worn out fairly quickly. I feel like that's not a trick you can play year after year. I'd much rather have a more solidly built team.
I'm just saying how his, not him per se, just saying that style, that kind of, can have this team believing in something a little bit, I just don't see that with him. I don't see him being that kind of, having this team believe that they can go out.
Blinding me. But if you said Rod Brind'Amour,
right,
I think that's exactly the same kind of positivity you mean without all the Tortorella bullshit. And I think that Lindy Ruff does not have the energy that Rod Brind'Amour has, and he doesn't have the guys buying in with that energy. And I'm not saying you can't have a reserve coach. Larry Robinson was a very reserve coach.
Yeah, but you knew he was the most fiery, though. He was fiery, and when he did it. Lindy Ruff seems like looks like he could take a nap on the bench while the game's going on. I don't see any emotion from him. And you know what? Some nights I don't see any emotion from this team. So,
now where they are, I could see why somebody like Rod Brind'Amour or maybe even a Tortorella would benefit them compared to the personality we got with Ruff. I get your point.
Now, this is not a fire Lindy conversation. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, do you see that some nights maybe that personality can help this team and where they are right now?
I do. I just also worry too that this in the end is kind of a young team. Now, I think last year most people said Lindy's greatest strength was being a good coach for a young team, and this year I'm starting to see how maybe he's just a good coach for a young team, and we're starting to transition out of that.
You're right.
So I do want somebody else to take him next level, but if you go full 180 there and go into some strong personality that's going to maybe get motivation by creating dissension in the locker room and all kinds of bullshit.
I know. I don't want any of that either.
Yeah, so maybe like I said, maybe more of a Brind'Amour than a Tortorella. Dude, I think you're right. I think this team's kind of outgrown the elderly father figure, just showing us the ropes kind of thing that Lindy Ruff provided last year. But who knows? We have a lot of time left in this. There's some ways this could go back and forth. I think the team's got to figure itself out, and maybe Lindy can also figure out the team. But it's not been to potential so far.
Yeah,
I'd be lying if I didn't say cross my mind here or there when you're watching the team, and I do think of a guy like Rod Brind'Amour, but I wonder how much of that is just my interpretation of what happened in the playoffs last year and just seeing that team performing that way against us. And it's kind of a stretch to assume that we can play anywhere like that exactly because it's just not the DNA of this team right now. And I think Ruff, we don't really know what happens in that room. I think that he probably does get more fire than we think. I've recently seen more things with his practices and his mouth going off and stuff. So I don't think that the fire's not in him. But I get what you guys are saying about, like, sometimes you just feel like there's just that one different voice that what'd you say, underdog story or whatever, just turn this around and, and just go for it. But I don't know that this team would respond to that yet. I think that they've been carving this path for so long. They truly believe in the way that they play. It just hasn't clicked.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in the way that they play too. I'm not saying, but their way they play, when they play their game, one of the best teams I've ever seen.
Right.
It's why aren't you playing your game all the time? You watch a Florida Panther game, right? They go out there, they're playing their game every single night. They do not take a fucking shift off, and they win. And we do. And
it's like resolve. The word's resolve.
Yes, and
we don't have the same resolve.
And maybe
that other teams
maybe it's
have.
losing in 5 games in the Stanley Cup Finals that put this fire under their ass that said we are not going to take anything for granted. Maybe the Devils just haven't been kicked hard enough in the face, but this season I think has the potential to become a great story for this team. Become a great story. Like, look at all the injuries. Look at the job that this team has done to kind of crawl back in, get into the playoffs, make a big run. I can totally see it, but I can also see them dropping to 6th or 7th in the Metro. And some nights it just seems like they don't give a shit. And I don't know who that's an indictment on. That's just the team in general. That's just kind of how I feel. So this week, it's kind of like shit or get off the pot time for the Devils now for me. Like, I want to see them go on this week, and I don't give a shit if you don't win every game. I don't care if you lose every game. But play every game. Play your asses off. Go out there and show that it doesn't matter if Jack's not in the lineup. Doesn't matter if Dougie's not in the lineup, Palat's not in the lineup. Any of these guys are in the lineup. You're the Devils. You're a good team. And go out and play it. And that's what I want to see. And I haven't really seen that until that Chicago game. That Chicago game I thought was the best thing that could have happened for this team. And it showed a little bit. I think they still had a little bit of that hangover and heavy legs in the beginning of that Vancouver game. But when they woke up, and they were cooking. So, I don't know.
You're definitely onto something there. I think with just a little bit of fire in the right spot, the right time, a couple of these injuries that come back to us, this is a team that can still do a ton of damage. So
absolutely.
You're right. The next month, I'd say, is so crucial. You're really going to know if it's just like long shot time, limping in, or, okay, we got something good here that we're still on track, guys. We're all right. Right now I feel like we're just a little too far to know which way that's going to be. But in about a month's time, we're kind of going to know if we're just barely sneaking in and got to cross our fingers the whole way, or we've got a team that is going to get in and is just really finding their way to becoming a real playoff team.
And you'll
that's
know
a big difference.
Like, even if they are kind of scrambling to get in, and it's a last 6 weeks of the season, or just all of us chomping our nails down to nothing, hoping this team makes it. And you'll be able to know, though, just in that time it takes for them to get there, if they're the team that's going to do any damage.
Just by the way they play, right?
Yes, just by the way they play. The
quality of the wins matters so much more, right?
And exactly, and the quality of your losses matter a lot more. And it's so that's why I see. Okay, you got the bad news. You're not getting Jack back for a few weeks. Every time I feel like these guys were out, it was Columbus on the schedule. It was like a lesser team. Like this is. And maybe that's just in my own head and I'm making that shit up. But this is 3 really good teams. Go and win them. Like, there's no reason you can't go and win them. Like, don't make any more excuses. This is, if you're serious about getting into the playoffs, and if you really are as good of a team as we all think they are, then they should go out there and win 2 out of these next 3. That's how I feel. No more excuses. No more bullshit. Just go do it.
Sounds doable.
It does.
Anything else you guys want to touch on tonight?
I mean, that about covers the world of New Jersey Devils hockey.
Actually, it doesn't. There's one more thing real quick.
What do we got?
So, do you guys see on Twitter this girl? She goes by Annika Devils. She's a 15-year-old. So, I Steve Coolius on the Power Play on XM was talking about her. Like, she writes a bunch of articles. She wants to be a reporter for the team. Like, so he had her on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Very cool.
This girl was amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. Like, he didn't sugarcoat shit, didn't throw her softballs. He asked her actual questions like only a true hockey fan would know, and she like answered them right away. Like, she wants to be a reporter. This kid
is a hockey reporting savant.
She's awesome. And if so I think we follow each other on Twitter. When if you look at some of her photos, she has pictures up of her and EJ Radick and Kenny Danico, Erica Wachter. Like, she met all these people. She's a huge Devil fan. She seems like a super nice girl. And just like, I wish when I was 15, I knew what the hell I wanted to do, right? Like, this girl knows what she wants to do and is doing it. Super impressive. Well, saw on her Twitter page, apparently her father stepped in and put a kibosh on her page because, of course, some assholes had to just be disgusting human beings and mess with this young girl. Any of the people that got him, what's that?
It's hideous what they're doing. Yeah.
And if anybody that's listening to us, like, if you are one of these people that mess with her, don't listen to us. We don't want you to.
I don't think our listeners would ever do that.
I don't think they would either. They would hate. These people are hate listeners. This is a 15-year-old girl who's putting herself out there to do something that she believes in, that she loves, that she wants to do. And you guys are petty and stupid and jealous, and you are fucking with this girl.
They're being
making her life hell. Oh,
I just imagine creepy, and they're just being
the
negative.
The father actually posted that, like, he's got the law enforcement involved for libel and sexual harassment. And all right, Bobby, we'll see you on Thursday. All right, brother.
Sorry, guys.
All right, no, it's no worries. I got you. Have a good night.
Bye, Bobby.
And they read, they I don't know, and from what I read, from what her father had posted, was mostly women that were doing this, other girls, like doing like tormenting.
I think these got to be Ranger fans or something.
I mean, whatever it is, like, leave this girl alone. Like, she is like I said, I heard her on the thing, and I was, you know what it was? I listened to her, and she's 15. I was like, I am proud to be a Devils fan because of this girl.
Cool.
Like, she was
very
awesome.
Cool.
Yes,
I think it's the awesomest thing in the world to see that. I mean, that would be horrible to think that these are so-called Devils fans doing something awful like that. I
really hope not.
Most Devils fans, not most, just about all Devils fans understand and agree that
I really hope
the worst
that
possible behavior.
It really is, and I
hope this person comes back. She comes back to do her job, and that she's chosen to do as a young person. I think that's fantastic for hockey, fantastic for the Devils. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more as an organization than to have somebody, come up with, their own personality, voice, whatever on social media to promote your team.
Absolutely.
Devils fans should be loving it. I mean, there's too much hate out there, and, life's too short, guys. Enjoy, your team, your sport. Enjoy it with everybody. It doesn't take away from you that somebody else is involved. Hopefully people get that.
You're so right.
They do.
And, if anything, like you said, be proud that she's one of ours. She's one of our fans, this girl. Absolutely. And she's doing a great job. And in 10 years' time, she's probably going to be all over the NHL Network and be the next Elliot Friedman insider.
And it doesn't hurt anybody's own, like, manhood to have women involved with hockey.
Absolutely.
I get a little bit of that vibe out there, just from being a hockey fan and player. The stuff I hear sometimes, it's like almost like some guys got a little bit of a fear that it's going to take away from them to have women in the sport, and I don't see it. It's more fun. It's great to have other opinions out there. I think that that almost all Devil fans get this, and we have some really beloved women characters in the Devil organization right now. Chiefly, I guess, Erica Wachter, right? Everybody loves her. She's
Absolutely.
Great. And she does a tremendous job for this team and that broadcast. So, hopefully everything works out.
Same here. And I hope it doesn't get to the point of, lawyers and this girl not being able to do what she does because she does it great. And, so, just in general, guys, just don't be fucking dicks. It's simple.
I don't think those are our guys. I just can't believe it.
No, it's probably not. So wherever you're listening to us, we thank you so much for doing that. We are part of the Hockey Podcast Network, so you can also listen to us on there, I believe. Give us a 5-star review, a positive result. Throw a positive review. Throw a kind DM to Annika Devil's Way, okay? And for Bobby, Dan, I'm Chris. We're the Uncle Puckers, and we'll see you after the Lightning game. Peace.
Puckers out. What would Bobby say?
He said his bye-byes already.
Bye-byes. Bobby says bye-byes.
Hey, I said bye-byes. Bye-byes, Dan.
Doing this late at night. Where did he run off to?
I think he said, did he say he was going to the gym? He's crazy.
I think he's got poop.
It's over.
Oh, maybe he had to poop. That makes more sense.